Greetings, YouTube. I've spoken about mental illness here frequently, and a lot of the times when we talk about our improvements and our gains, we're often talking about a very tightly focused topic, and it's really here, maybe here, but what it rarely is here. What do I mean by that? I mean, from the title of this video, you can get the bird's eye view. Because when we're trying to deal with something, it's very specific normally. And if we have a success, we've grappled with something and we've found a solution and we've made a victory, but we're seeing it on a very narrow scale. It's like we've conquered, you know, we've conquered a section of a journey, or maybe at the best we can describe it as we've conquered a mountain. The reality is, to be where we are at that moment, we didn't conquer a section of a trail. We didn't conquer a peak. We conquered an entire mountain range. We conquered a continental rift. We've come a really long way. And we got there a lot of the times by thinking about it in small sections, because small sections is something that we can deal with when we're caught in our mental illness. Because as I've often said, you can't work on an engine when it's running. You have to stop the engine to take it apart and see what's going on. And when you're trapped in that mental state, the best you can do sometimes, you see that piece of ground in front of you, and you march that extra 10 yards. And you see maybe to the next tree line. And that's all you can manage. And that's not a critique of you or me. That's the survival situation that we're in. That's what we're doing to get through the fucking day. And if that's what we got to do, that's what we got to do. And you will not be judged by me by that. And anyone who judges you for that, you don't need in your life. But it's hard to see all the gains you've made, because you spend so much of your time right here, right, look in that narrow spot in front of you. Keep moving. I have been so deeply lost, where I've had my eyes closed and I have just chanted for hours, don't make a decision, don't make a decision, don't make a decision. Because making a decision in that moment could have been a life ending. And when you're in that state, you definitely can't see how far you've gone to be able to save yourself in that moment. To be able to come up with that maybe horrible coping mechanism. But in that moment, that coping mechanism kept you alive till you could find the better one. And you are to be applauded for that. I've often talked to my therapist about coping mechanisms, and we've talked about the subject of self-harm. Now, I have very rarely self-harmed in my life. I have done it, but it was not a coping mechanism that I used regularly. But as he said self-harm is a horrible coping method, but it's a coping method. And it's better than the person killing themselves. Because as long as there's life, there's hope. And if they've gotten that coping mechanism, we can work with the fact that they were able to come up with the coping mechanism to then move them to a healthier coping mechanism. But if they didn't have that bad one, they wouldn't have been able to get to the good one. So don't judge somebody because they have a crappy coping mechanism. Help them find a better coping mechanism. Now, sadly, some coping mechanisms become feedback loops that people can't get out of, particularly when it comes to chemical addiction, alcohol, opioids, what have you. Because when that feedback loop starts, then it becomes a physiological as well as psychological problem, and then it gets much harder to get out of. And sometimes they found themselves into that situation not because of a psychological problem, but because of a purely physical one. They had an injury and they just got themselves addicted. But then it becomes a mental illness as well as a physical addiction. It's complex. Humans are like that. But sometimes you just gotta soar up and you gotta look down and you gotta see how far you've come. Because you may be only thinking about that next step because that's all you can do right now. But I hope that you can someday stop and turn around and see the million steps you've already taken. See how far you've come. You can't even see the starting point anymore. It's so far away. It's over the horizon. That's how far you've come. There should be an Academy Award for mental health, and you should already have won it. Because you're alive listening to this video. And I can't think of anything better than that. Because if you're alive listening to this video, then maybe tomorrow you'll be alive to listen to my next piece of bullshit. And the next day and the next. Maybe you'll be here in a year or a decade, because I plan on still being here. Until YouTube is gone. But stop and reward yourself. Stop and see how far you've come. Stop and realize that you are worthy of respect and admiration because you survived. And don't let anybody tell you that the term survivor isn't applicable to you. You don't need that bullshit. No one gets to decide for you whether or not that title fits you or not. If you think you're a survivor, then you're a survivor. That's how you want to think about yourself. You should. You choose your narrative. Don't let somebody else choose it for you. We made it this far. And we're going to keep going. I hope you're here for a very long time.